Welcome to Newsbeacon, your trusted source for breaking headlines, global insights, and sharp analysis from around the world. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. The Miller family stepped into the model home, their kids racing upstairs, their laughter filling the air with excitement and hope. It was a Saturday morning, and the sun streamed through the big windows, making everything feel bright and full of promise. Laughter echoed through the open-plan living area, bouncing off the freshly painted walls and high ceilings. The children's voices blended with the soft hum of other families touring the house. But for the Millers, it felt like this home was meant just for them. Sarah and Tom Miller exchanged a hopeful glance. This was the house they'd been saving for, the one where they could finally plant roots. They imagined birthday parties, movie nights, and quiet evenings together in this very space. Years of saving, dreaming, and planning had led to this moment. Every sacrifice, every skipped vacation, every late-night conversation about their future had brought them here. They admired the kitchen, picturing family breakfasts and holiday dinners. Sarah could almost smell the aroma of pancakes on a Sunday morning, while Tom imagined teaching the kids to bake cookies at the Big Island counter. Everything felt right. The quiet street, the good schools just a short walk away, the sense of possibility that came with a fresh start. The neighborhood seemed safe and welcoming, with friendly neighbors waving from their porches. Confident in their research, they believed this four-bedroom home was within reach. They had checked the listings, compared prices, and calculated their budget down to the last dollar. Sitting down with the sales agent, they were ready to talk numbers. The kids played quietly nearby, while Sarah and Tom prepared to make the biggest decision of their lives. The agent slid over the updated pricing sheet, her expression polite but unreadable. The paper felt heavier than it should have, as if it carried the weight of their dreams. Sarah's excitement faded as she saw the price, much higher than expected. Her heart sank, and Tom's brow furrowed in confusion. The numbers didn't match what they'd seen online or in brochures just a few months ago. Tom asked, "Is this correct? We saw lower prices last year." His voice was steady, but underneath he was anxious. They had worked so hard to get here. How could things have changed so quickly? The agent explained. Construction costs had soared, and the builder had to pass those costs on. Lumber, labor, and materials were all more expensive now, and every new home reflected those increases. The Millers' dreams suddenly felt out of reach, the price tag pushed higher by forces they couldn't see or control. The home that had felt so close now seemed to slip away, just beyond their grasp. They left, not with a contract, but with disappointment. As they walked back to their car, the children's laughter faded, replaced by quiet questions and uncertain glances. The Millers realized that sometimes, even the best-laid plans can be upended by the unexpected, and that the journey to finding a home is rarely as simple as it seems. The Miller story is echoed across America, in neighborhoods big and small, as families dream of owning a home, but find themselves facing unexpected obstacles. More and more families are discovering that homes they once thought were within reach are now slipping away. The main culprit behind this sudden shift, lumber, the very material that forms the backbone of our homes. The wood that frames our houses, supports our roofs, and shapes our neighborhoods, has become a major driver of unaffordability in the housing market. It's not just a background cost, it's a central factor in the price of every new home. Lumber is, quite literally, the skeleton of nearly every new home built in America. Without it, construction grinds to a halt. When its price rises, the effect isn't isolated. It ripples through the entire industry, touching everyone from builders to buyers. Builders faced with soaring lumber costs are forced to make tough decisions. They can try to absorb the extra expense, but more often, they have no choice but to pass those costs on to buyers. This means that families hoping to buy a new home are suddenly confronted with higher price tags, sometimes by thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. For many, this surge in cost is more than just a number. It's the difference between moving into a dream home and having to walk away, disappointed and frustrated. The impact is widespread. Across the country, the rising cost of lumber has added significant amounts to the price of new homes, making homeownership less attainable for countless families. For families like the Millers, these added costs can mean the difference between buying a home and giving up on that dream, at least for now. The story of rising home prices is deeply connected to the story of lumber. But to truly understand why this is happening, we need to look beyond just local real estate listings. The answer lies in a complex web of international trade policies, tariffs, and supply chain challenges that stretch far beyond our neighborhoods. The journey of lumber from the vast forests of Canada to the construction sites of the United States is now fraught with economic and political complexity, making every plank of wood more expensive and harder to obtain. These complexities have real, tangible consequences, measured in dollars and cents, that ultimately determine whether a family can afford to buy a home or must keep searching and hoping for a break in the market. To understand lumber's price, you need to understand tariffs. A tariff is a tax on imported goods, like Canadian lumber, charged at the border. The goal? Make imports more expensive, protecting domestic industries. For example, if Canadian lumber is cheaper, a tariff raises its price to help U.S. mills compete. But the cost doesn't disappear. Importers pass it down the supply chain. Each step, wholesaler, supplier, builder, adds to the price. Ultimately, it's the American homebuyer who pays. The tariff becomes an invisible tax, hidden in the final sticker price. For families like the Millers, it's a direct hit to their budget. Tariffs on Canadian lumber are embedded in every 2x4 and plywood sheet. That's how a trade policy becomes a personal financial hurdle. The US-Canada lumber dispute is decades old, rooted in how each country manages its forests. In the US, timber is mostly harvested from private land, with prices set by the market. In Canada, most forests are government-owned, and companies pay a set stumpage fee to harvest. US producers argue these fees are artificially low, giving Canadian lumber an unfair advantage. This has led to repeated trade disputes, known as the softwood lumber dispute. The US imposes tariffs to level the playing field, while Canada insists its system is fair. The result? A cycle of tariffs, litigation, and uncertainty for builders and buyers. Each new round of tariffs brings price volatility. The dispute's impact is felt in every American home built with Canadian wood. In 2017, the Trump administration reignited the lumber dispute. After a previous agreement expired, the US investigated and found Canada was subsidizing its lumber. The result: new tariffs, over 20%, on most Canadian softwood imports. The US relies on Canada for about a third of its lumber, so the impact was immediate. Prices shot up across the construction supply chain. The policy aimed to help US mills, but the effects rippled far beyond. The Biden administration later reduced the tariffs to around 11%, but kept them in place. The cost of Canadian lumber remains artificially high. For builders, that means higher costs for a key material. And for homebuyers, it means higher prices every time. The tariff's legacy is a more expensive American dream. Lumber tariffs aren't just theory. They're real dollars for families. The National Association of Home Builders found tariffs and price spikes added over $14,000 to the average new home. That's a huge barrier for buyers, raising down payments and monthly payments for years. The impact isn't limited to single-family homes. Apartment construction costs rose too, pushing rents higher. The result? More people priced out, more financial strain, and a tougher path to homeownership. In hot markets, the impact is even greater. A policy decision in Washington can mean a canceled contract in suburbia. Behind every statistic and headline about the housing market, there are real families with hopes, dreams, and challenges. These are the stories that often go untold, the journeys of Americans striving to build a life and a future in a place they can call their own. Take Maria and David in Phoenix, for example. They spent years carefully saving every extra dollar, planning for the day they could finally move into their own home. But just as their dream was within reach, the price of their new house jumped by $12,000 in the middle of construction, all because of soaring lumber costs. To make it work, Maria and David had to borrow money from family members and empty their savings accounts. Instead of celebrating, they started their journey as homeowners under a cloud of financial stress and uncertainty, worried about what other unexpected costs might come next. The Garcia family in Florida faced a similar struggle. They designed a home to fit their growing family, imagining spacious bedrooms and a home office. But when lumber prices soared, they were forced to shrink their plans: smaller bedrooms, no office, and fewer features than they'd hoped for. Their dream home became a compromise, a reminder of what could have been if circumstances were different. Stories like these are not isolated. They're happening in neighborhoods across the country, from big cities to small towns. Families everywhere are feeling the impact. Builders now find themselves explaining rising costs and tariffs to anxious clients, showing invoices that reflect the new reality. Families are forced to make tough decisions, cutting back on space, features, or even reconsidering homeownership altogether. The result is often downsized dreams, financial strain, and a growing sense that the system is stacked against ordinary people just trying to get ahead. The lumber tariff isn't just a distant policy debate, it's a daily reality that shapes the lives of Americans chasing the promise of homeownership, affecting every decision and every dollar spent. The dream of owning a home is still alive for millions, but for many, it now feels just out of reach. Something to strive for, despite the obstacles in their way. The debate is fierce. Supporters say tariffs protect U.S. mills, jobs, and rural economies, leveling the field against subsidized Canadian imports. They argue a strong domestic lumber industry is vital for economic security. But critics, builders, housing advocates call tariffs a tax on homebuyers. The U.S. can't meet its own lumber demand, so tariffs just raise costs for everyone. Volatile prices make it hard for builders to plan, stalling projects and worsening the housing shortage. Critics want a long-term deal with Canada, ending tariffs and stabilizing supply. For them, affordable housing for millions outweighs protecting a single industry. The choice: protect a few thousand jobs, or make homes affordable for millions. The stakes are high and the impact is personal. The lumber tariff story is about more than wood and trade. It's about the American dream. Tariffs meant to protect one industry have made homeownership harder for millions. Over $14,000 added to a new home isn't just a number, it's a barrier, a canceled contract, a downsized plan. The benefits are concentrated, but the costs are widespread. Families like the Millers pay the price, their dreams deferred by a hidden tax. As the debate continues, the future of homeownership hangs in the balance. The foundation of a home is wood, but the foundation of a dream is affordability. Sometimes the price of a 2x4 decides the size of a family's future.